Okay, good day. So sa video na to, we're going to have a review of your previous study of mathematics, and this is how to find the mean, variance, and standard deviation of group data. Also, in your previous mathematics, you learned how to describe data using the mean and variance. This review is one way to find out if you are ready to learn our new lesson. Our new lesson, based from the introduction video na binigay ko sa inyo, lesson number 3 is about computing the mean of a discrete probability distribution. But before that, mag-review muna tayo. Okay, so we have here a frequency distribution and we are asked to compute the mean, variance, and standard deviation of this frequency distribution. At yung data natin dito is a population data. Yung first column, ito yung mga scores na na-obtained ng estudyante. Okay? And we have the number of students. We have 3, 5, 4, 5, 3, which means 3 students got the score of 5 points. And there are students na 4 na nakakuha ng 10 points. So, total, tawag natin dito, frequency distribution. Matatandaan nyo, nung previous study of mathematics ninyo, yung ating first column, naka-range siya. Ibig sabihin, merong class width, merong lower limit and upper limit yung ating pong mga class intervals. Naka-class intervals siya. In this case po, hindi. May mga individual scores at may corresponding number of students na nakakuha ng individual scores na yon. This is one example pa lang. I'm going to give you the second example na kung saan yung ating pong first column naka-class intervals, may lower and upper limits. Okay? And we're going to use the following formulas. For the population data, to compute for the mean, we use mu equals summation of the product of the frequency and the class mark. Okay? All over n. Yung x sub n natin, also called class mark or class midpoint. So, hindi ko na isusulat yon. Review lang naman to. Okay, for the variance, kapag population data, we use sigma squared. That is the summation of the product of the frequency and the difference of the square of the score or the class mark minus the population mean all over n. We use capital letter N for the population data. And for the standard deviation, we're just going to get the square root of the variance. For the sample data, the formula is x bar equal to the summation of the product of the frequency and the class mark all over n. Again, we use small letter n for the sample data. For the variance, we have s squared equal to summation of the product of the frequency and the square of the difference of the class mark and the mean or the sample mean all over n minus 1. So, papansin nyo, may n minus 1 for the sample data. For the standard deviation, kukunin lang natin yung square root nito. Okay? So, these are the formulas that we're going to use to determine the mean, variance, and standard deviation for this frequency distribution. Take note, we have a population data. Therefore, for the mean, variance, and standard deviation, we're going to use these 3 formulas. Okay? So again, we're going to compute for the mean, variance, and standard deviation of a given frequency distribution. And first thing that we're going to do is to determine the mean, the population mean of this data. So using this formula, we have mu equals summation of fx over n. Now, yung n natin dito, capital letter N, ito yung population natin. Okay? So, to obtain n, we're just going to add the number of students here. So, this column will be added. We have 3 plus 5 plus 4 plus 5 plus 3. That will be equal to 20. Okay? So, ang ating n is 20. And then, we have to determine fx, meaning the frequency times the score of the students. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, these two columns, multiply natin. So, that will be 5 times 3, 15. 8 times 5 is 40. 10 times 4 is also 40. 12 times 5 is 60. 15 times 3 is 45. Then we're going to add fx, no? Lahat ng mga fx values natin, that is the product of x and the frequency. So 40 plus 40 is 80 times 60 is 140. That will be 140 plus 45 is 185 plus 15. That is 200. Okay. Now we already have the summation of fx and n. We can determine the mean of this frequency distribution. So i-plug in lang natin yung mga values na nakuha natin. Summation of fx is 200 and n is equal to 20. So therefore, the mean of this frequency distribution is equal to 10. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Ito yung average score of the student. Okay? Ito yung gitna. Kaya nga yung mean natin is part of the topic about measures of central tendency. Yung mga gitna kinukuha natin, while variance is kinukuha natin yung pagkakalayo-layo ng mga scores natin from the center of the mean, from the center of the distribution. Kaya yung dispersion. Okay? So, 10 points ang average score of this frequency distribution. So, ibig sabihin, if your score is lower than 10, ibig sabihin, your score is below than the average. And if your score is greater than 10, it means that you are above the average nung examination na ibinigay nung teacher ninyo. Ibig sabihin, you're above from the average. Okay? Now, the next is we're going to determine the variance. Okay, nakuha na natin yung number 1, which is the mean. Ito yung mean natin. Then, number 2, kunin natin yung variance. Ang formula ng variance for the population data is this one. We use sigma. Sigma is summation of fx minus mu squared all over n. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan muna natin i-determine yung x minus mu. X minus mu is the difference of this score to our population mean. Okay? Okay, paano yun? So, 1 by 1. 5 minus 10 is negative 5. Okay? 8 minus 10 is negative 2. 10 minus 10 is 0. So, ibig sabihin, itong apat na to, ang score nila is average. Okay? While yung negative 2 means itong 8 points na nakuha ng 5 estudyante is 2 units away from the average. 12 minus 10 is 2. 2 units mean the distance of the score of these 5 students is 2 units higher than the average. 15 minus 5 is 5. Magagaling tong tatlong estudyante na to kasi 5 units ang distance niya from the center of the distribution. Okay? Then we need square of x minus u. So, x minus mu, I mean. So, this is 25, 4, 0, 4, 25. Okay. Next is the product of the frequency and this column. So 3 times 25 is, that is 75. 5 times, square natin, tama. So we have 5 times 4 is 20. Next, 4 times 0 is 0. 5 times 4 is 20. And 3 times 25 is 75. Okay. Then next is we're going to add this column. Okay. Using our calculator, we have 75 plus 20 plus 20 plus 75 equal to 190. So 190 yung sum nitong product ng frequency at square of the difference ng score and the mean. 190. So to compute for the variance, plug in natin yung values natin nakuha. So gamitin natin yung blue. So we have 190 divide by 20. So the variance is equal to 190 divided by 20 equal to 9.5. Okay? So the variance equal to 9.5. Okay? So ito yung ating variance. Okay, yun ang variance natin. Or dispersion of these scores from the center of the distribution, where in the center is 10. Okay? Next is we determine the standard deviation. The standard deviation is just the square root of the sigma squared. Mu equal to square root of this one, summation of fx minus mu squared over, n. Therefore, the population standard deviation is just the square root of the variance, square root of 9.5. Square root of 9.5, square root of 9.5 is equal to 3.08. So 3.08 is our standard deviation. So na-compute na natin yung mean, variance, and standard deviation. Ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin nun na yung ating 3.08 na standard deviation ng at an average, yung ating pong mga scores ay nagdi-disperse by 3.08 from the mean. Like for example, ito. Ang dispersion ni score na 5 from the center is 5 units lower. And 15 ay nagde-deviate o nag-deviate from the center by 5 units to the right. So if we have here a normal distribution, just like this one. Okay? So ito yung center natin, yung pinakamataas. Nandito yung ating mean. Ang mean natin, gamitin natin ay mu kasi population. 10. So itong mga to, nagdi-disperse yan. Yung dispersion niya from the center. Ito, ang dispersion nitong score na to from the mean is 5 units to the left. So ito yung ating 5. So ang distance niya from the center is actually 5 units to the left. Wherein itong 10 na to, na score, ang dispersion niya 0. Distance niya from the center is 0 kasi 10 ang score niya, ang mean natin ay 10, so ang layo niya from the center is 0. While yung 12 natin, let's say this one, so ang layo niya from the center is 2 units to the right of the mean, which means magagaling yung mga batang ito. Okay? Above average yung kanilang nakuha score. So, ano ibig sabihin 3.08? 3.08 means at an average, ang distance ng mga scores natin from the center is 3.08. It's either 3.08 to the right or 3.08 to the left. So, yun yung tinatawag nating standard deviation or dispersion of these scores from the center of our frequency or center of our distribution. Okay? So, that will be the end of our, actually, this is just my first example. I'm going to give you the second example. Thank you.